Good morning, everybody. Chef Beardsley. It's a big day. It's a big day. It's a long build up. Teased you guys, showed you the build, and we still haven't started it yet. But today it changes. We're gonna start it. It's gonna be 70 today. It's early in the morning. I'm charging up a 4S lipo pack for my bump box. I'm gonna charge up the receiver battery I'm gonna break it in without the receiver on most of the time, but towards the end I want to wrap it and make sure it's all good. I got my heat gun out. So my goal, again, I'm no expert. There's people that know way more than me about nitros. I just know what works for me, and I'm just some dude in a shed. All right, so a good guy to check out is Bo Gel. He does a hell of a break-in on engines. He does like a gallon of fuel. I'm gonna do 2 quarts. I'm basically going to do his setup. I'm going to take my heat gun first, and before I even start it, I'm going to heat this up to 230 and let it cool down. Heat this up to 230 Fahrenheit and cool down. I'm going to do that like 3 times just to get it ready. And then I'm going to heat it up to 230 one more time. I'm going to attempt to start her up. And then I'm just going to let it run fuel. It's going to run fat because you want extra oil in there. I'm just going to let it run fuel and until the first tank's almost empty. Then I'm going to kill it. Let it make sure it's at bottom dead center, meaning the piston's at the bottom of the stroke here, and then I'm gonna let that cool down, and I'm gonna start it up again and do that like 3, 4, 5 times until I'm comfortable with it, and it's starting easier and easier. And then I'm going to start it and just let it run the entire time. And then when the fuel gets low, I'm just gonna add more fuel, gonna add more fuel, gonna add more fuel, and I'm just gonna let it run. And then I'm gonna make sure this stays at 230 the entire time. So I have to use the heat gun if I have to. The goal is don't let it get too hot. If it's a little cooler, I can always heat it up. But if it gets too hot, I have to kill it and let it cool down. So that's the main thing. So let me charge up the batteries. I'll show you the fuel I'm going to use when I go to fuel it up. And then hopefully it goes smoothly. I've never broken in a Novarossi. I've never used a bump box. I've always just used RTRs and stuff, pull stars and all that stuff. So it's a first for me. Alright guys, so while my batteries are charging up, I made sure my piston was at bottom dead center, meaning the piston's at the bottom of the stroke. It's all the way down. And then I just marked my flywheel. I don't know if you guys are going to see that, but on my flywheel here, I put a little, took a Sharpie and just dotted it there. It'll probably wear off after a while, but just so when I'm breaking it in, I could turn this flywheel and make sure when that mark is facing up, I'm at bottom dead center. So that way I don't have to take the plug out every time to check it. But if you don't do that, you can just take the plug out and just turn the flywheel before it cools down. Because if you don't, this head is going to shrink when it cools down. It's going to pinch your piston and it won't be able to move. So I recommend doing that. So now, like literally, this is at 65 degrees. I temp it. I'm just going to heat this up with my heat gun to 230, and then I'm just going to let it sit and cool down back to 65. And then I'm going to do that like 2 or 3 times while this charges. You don't have to do this step, but I'm just going to because I'm going to baby it. And then I'm not going to baby it when I run it, that's for sure, but to break it in, I want to make sure I do the best I can. And then if you don't do this step, you still have to heat. I still recommend heating this up to 230 and then trying to start it. But yeah, so I'm going to do that while that charges, and I'll get back to you guys. Alright guys, a little damper on the situation. My receiver pack here, went to charge it for the first time. It's dead. It showed up as a 2S. It started charging fine. And then my charger started saying battery disconnected, and I checked it, and one of the cells is shot. So we're not going to be able to like use the trigger or servos or nothing. So it's no big deal. I got workarounds. I can probably, I actually have a 2S lipo that I can hook into this just for break-in purposes. It just sucks. I contacted the seller, so hopefully they get back to me and send me a new one. So damper the situation. Let me continue going. All right, everybody. So we have it set up on the tailgate. So we're running the Byron's 30% with 10% fuel. Yeah, we have it set up on the bump box. So I'm going to heat it up to 230 once again, and then we're going to try to start her up. Got my glow plug igniter. I'm going to set you guys up in front of me here, and hopefully we get a good shot. So I'm gonna go through the first tank. She's nice and fat, see all the smoke. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep an eye on it, try to keep it at that 230. It's at like 232 right now. So I'm gonna keep hitting it with the heat gun. Just make sure it keeps that temperature. After this first tank, I'll update you guys how it went. Start it right up like a beast. What? All right, so after the first tank, we're gonna make sure that this is at bottom dead center before it cools down completely. Right there, because I got my mark there. And now we're gonna let it cool down to 65, because that's what it started at. I was here with the heat gun, making sure it stayed at about 230. It started right up. Even after the first tank, obviously I didn't run it completely out. I always stop it right before because it can lean out. And then I'm gonna do that like 2 or 3, 4, 5 more times. And then we're gonna do a continuous run. So far, so good. Started right up like a beast. So yeah, I'm gonna do this for a little bit. I'll update you guys when we do the continuously run. But so far, so good. All right, guys, we're on tank 3. We're almost through a quart of fuel. So after this, I'm gonna do the continuously running. It's been phenomenal. Cooling it down. As you can see, it's still nice and fat. It's doing great. It's starting up every time, no problem. Heat cycles are going good. Yeah, I can't complain. It's going good. So it's just a little update in between. So after this quart is done, I'm gonna just do the continuously run for almost another quart and wrap every once in a while to get the extra fuel out, and she'll be ready. All right, guys. So now I'm just giving it a little braps just to clear up some fuel. Nothing crazy. Just to get that excess fuel out. So now I'm just gonna continuously run this thing until I'm almost through a quart. And then we'll do fine tuning when we get tires on it. We're not gonna do that in this video, it's just initial braking. And then she's ready to get launched. So I'll update you guys when we're done with that last quart. And then, yeah, it'll be the end of the video. It's been super smooth, it's been super easy. She's been starting up every time. So I'm pumped. You have no idea. All right, so we're still, I'm all oiled up, but we're still running. We're doing good. Big shout out to Nitro Freak. I actually hit him up. I had an issue with my idle screw. From the factory, it was turned out super far, so every time I hit the brake, it would die. And I turned it in, and I thought I turned it in like 4 turns, and it still was doing it. So I hit up Nitro Freak, and he told me that I needed a bigger gap, and like I had to turn that screw in like 6 times, which is crazy. But as you can see, it's still going good. So big shout out to Nitro Freak. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. Like I said, no expert. Don't be afraid to ask questions, guys. So let me get back to it. We're almost done. All right, guys. It's been all day. I had a blast. Honestly, I loved every second of breaking this in. Even the times that I came into, there's a couple times where it would die and stuff like that, but it was only like 6 times. And the issue I was having with hitting the brake, I'll actually show you guys that right now. This is your idle screw right here. That was backed out like that far from the factory, so every time I hit the brake, it would close the carb all the way and it would kill it, which I knew that. So I kept turning it in, and I was like, I turned this in like 4 turns. Like, what's going on? So I actually hit up Nitro Freak. Big shout out to him. He helped me out. I was like, what's going on? I don't understand why this is doing this. I actually had the servo horn out and turn it different ways, and he was like, yeah, you need a little gap in the carb, which I took off this piece here, and I had no gap. So I took that off, and I literally had to turn that in probably 6 turns to get that. So that's something to check. Check your gapping on your idle. But other than that, man, this thing broke in really well. Yeah, I can't complain. I think I pissed off the neighbors long enough. It's already dark out. What time is it? 7:45. So I think we're gonna call it quits there. Yeah, so the next video should be me actually running this with the tires on. and just doing slow runs back and forth, because it's still not completely broken in my book, but close. We're gonna run it around a little bit, break the dips in, break this in. It's gonna need a tune. I was tuning it a little bit. I leaned it out a little bit. It's still super fat. Like, I'm covered in grease or oil. Like, it's ridiculous. But yeah, I had a blast. I love nitro. This is my first legit nitro engine. Again, check out Buddha Gel's break in. That's kind of what I did today. And a huge shout out to Nitro Freak. They're both going to be linked in the description. But yeah, Nitro Freak, thanks for the help, man. I appreciate it. And like I said, guys, I'm not an expert, so don't be afraid to ask questions. You know, I never worked with a Nova card before, so I didn't know that was so far out. So that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, I'm Chef Beardsley. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys soon. We're gonna be running this soon, airing it out like a boss. Catch you next time.